This might come off as surprising, but people are mad at a big YouTuber again. Linus Tech Tips, of all people, decided to buy a jet. Not essentially sure why, but it's also been called the Gamer Jet, and apparently it costs $0. All of this stuff makes no sense to me. And then I watched the video. I'd love to say that it clicked into place, everything made sense. It didn't.
We actually bought a jet.
What started as a meme on WAN show when I discovered that a jet-propelled aircraft is not as expensive as I initially thought. I'm serious.
Okay.
Even Luke was shocked. So I started exploring various options, and my uncle's in aviation and has been for many years on the pilot side, mechanical side, and operations side.
Okay.
So when I started to explore that one aircraft that I was like, this is shockingly affordable, he did a bunch of the due diligence for me and ultimately brought me 2 sales brochures, and he went, don't do this.
Saying that a private jet is affordable, that's a pretty out of touch statement, but it's pretty funny how he also goes ahead and says his uncle told him not to do this, because it's not just buying the jet that is going to be expensive. There's a lot more that comes after it. I'm not going to say I'm an expert in aviation, because in no way I am. I have next to no knowledge on planes, but using just my brain a little bit, I'd assume that there's a lot of expenses that comes along with owning a private jet. I just want to say the co-worker that's with him, his facial expressions are beautiful. They actually represent what I think a majority of the audience watching the video was probably doing as well.
When you say it's not that much, how much is that?
So because of the non-disclosure agreement that we signed in order to purchase it,
okay,
this whole world is very closed door.
Yeah.
I can't actually tell you how much I paid. But what I can tell you is that if you Google it, it's less than that. And the second thing that I can tell you is that with a little bit of girl math, $0. I would have been crazy not to buy it.
There's no way it's $0.
You see what I mean? Perfect representation of the thoughts flying through my head. There is no way that it is $0. I don't know how drunk you have to be to do the math that wrong. You're spending money on a jet, especially after what he says next. He's talking about the program that it went through. So he essentially got a brand new jet.
The engines were all on a service program from the previous owner that entitles you to completely refurbish them to effectively 0 hours brand new once they reach end of life. All 3 of those were done right before we purchased it. It's effectively brand new from an engine standpoint. Each of those refurbishments is worth anywhere from $1.1 to $1.2 million.
Each? And there's 3 of them?
The jet was also in for a 12-year service. And because my uncle's a shrewd negotiator, he put together a purchase contract for us where it was guaranteed that once it came out of that 12-year service, it was at Dassault specification. That 12-year service effectively cost as much or more than the rest of our purchase price.
So what you're saying is you got the plane for free?
What he's saying, to me at least, is he got a very well taken care of jet, which now, like when you purchase any vehicle, as soon as you use it, it's going to degrade in value. Is this just my plebeian mentality, or the more you use a jet, does it level up? You gain experience with it. Maybe it just gets, those little wing badges inside, level up awards. Does it get more valuable somehow? I would think you land on that brand new landing gear. The landing gear is worth much less now. Not like the landing gear is going to be completely shattered upon its first landing, but the first time you properly utilize anything, it's not new anymore, right? So therefore, it wouldn't be worth as much. When you go ahead and sell it again and somebody inspects the plane, they're going to end up seeing the usage on it, and the price will reflect that when he goes to sell it. That's at least my plebeian mentality. I am not one to own a private jet, but that's what I would think. Before we get into him talking about the fuel and what he's actually planning on using the jet for, there's also a couple of clips going around, especially since he's released this video, that's got a lot of people's attention. One of them being a clip from 2.5 years ago regarding Taylor Swift and her private jet.
So Taylor gets a lot of shit for her private jet use.
Or jet travel, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that there is, personally, I don't fly private. I don't even fly first class. I mean, come on, look at the size of my legs. Do I need more leg room? Not really. So, I kind of look at private air travel and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't seem great. you know, the sheer amount of fuel consumption.
You can imagine that's not a good look. 2.5 years later, he's got his own jet. He's uploaded his own cope video going, "It's so affordable. My uncle's a genius." I hit my stand. The other clip that's going around is regarding one of his employees. He uploaded a video a couple of months ago, kind of explaining why he ended up leaving Linus Tech Tips. One of his main gripes being pay.
You kind of start thinking while you're working on your boss's third house if you're ever going to be able to buy a house. And for the record, I don't own this one, I'm just renting.
And that was just one clip from his video of why he left Linus Tech Tips, but that line in particular hits pretty hard.
I assumed that jet fuel would be inordinately expensive. It turns out that it's actually really similar to kerosene.
Okay.
And doesn't really cost that much more than regular fuel.
How much does it store though?
It's just the sheer volume of it that you go through.
Okay.
With that said, I'm starting a family vlog. That'll be coming soon. And the first episode is going to be a trip to Cabo where I treated mine and Yvonne's families. When we factor in that the fuel coming back from Mexico was half as much as we paid to go down.
Oh, whoa.
It actually cost less than buying like a first class ticket for everyone.
So based off of what he said, as far as I can see, first class tickets can vary. You can get cheaper first class tickets, but if you're going for a while, round trip, you're looking at paying quite a lot, somewhere around 30 to 50,000, sometimes even more based on the websites that I've seen. That seems like a lot of money for flying as is, but he says that it costs half of that. That's pretty cool, but that's still $25,000 for a trip. I'm not 100% sure how often you're going to use this, but the theory going around, people are thinking that this is going to be a tax deduction situation. I don't think he's stupid enough to do that because I don't think you can deduct a jet from your taxes. I don't think that that's how that works either. Again, I'm just a plebeian. I don't own jets for purposes like travel vlogs. I feel like that's where that all kind of came from because he's starting his own channel that's a travel vlog and his jet's going to be a part of that.
The landing gear. So rough landings, total landings, and time all contribute to how often this stuff needs to be overhauled and checked. Well, guess what? As part of my girl math $0 plane, all three were completely redone months ago as part of a 12-year check. I'm talking the whole plane goes up on struts or on donor landing gear. They completely take apart the whole thing, new seals, new everything, new anti-skid, make sure everything's working perfectly, and they throw it back on. So once again, when we go to divest of this asset, business term for flip this, someone is basically buying a turnkey, ready to go 900.
I feel like maybe he even doesn't understand the way that he's phrasing it comes across as somebody's already fixed and made sure that this landing gear is up to top spec. You're now using the landing gear and it's not going to be at top spec anymore. You're going to have to make a repair. It's not going to be as expensive as it was previously, most likely, hopefully. Say something, everything goes perfectly and nothing goes wrong, right? But you're still going to have to spend quite a bit of money making sure that this plane is safe to fly. To me, this feels so out of touch. There's no way that this isn't a cope video. He's putting this up to just justify the fact that he just wanted a jet. He's now able to afford a jet, and that's fine. That honestly, I think is fine. It's the way that this video was put up comes across as, guys, look at this new thing that I bought that I don't really need, but I'm going to tell you how cool it is, so I feel like it was worth it. It's a very interesting take. This just seems so wacky. So the rest of the video is him pretty much going around the plane showing off his new toy. Not gonna lie, it's pretty cool. There's some electronic doodads in the front. When you check the inside, there's unnecessary gold-plated sinks. Maybe even a gold-plated pisser. I'm not 100% sure on that one. It seems to me like Linus is living the big life now, and he's trying to cope with it. He's trying to cope about the fact that people are going to see him differently now because he's rich, he's a millionaire, he's a big boy, and he's not hiding that money anymore, which I'm sure his employees just love. You can see the employee that's with him during the video, he's having a great time. It seems to me like he's not aware that a lot of people aren't going to see a private jet as affordable in compared to flying. Buying a private jet requires a huge payment, which is then the cheapest payment that you're going to have to make because you're going to have to upkeep the plane. Do planes get oil changes? I assume so. They need some sort of maintenance to keep it up in the sky and keep it nice and safe up there so that you and your family don't crash and burn. Also, it's not like he's going to Tom Cruise the plane. He's going to have to pay for a pilot, for example. He's going to have to pay for hangar space. He's going to have to pay the places where he's going for hangar space as well, I assume. Insurance? That's going to cost a lot. I don't know, that's pretty much it. Linus bought a jet. That's pretty cool, I guess. It seems like people are pretty upset because either he's a hypocrite or he doesn't pay his employees. I think the fact that he doesn't pay his employees enough is more of an issue than the being hypocritical about jets. I don't think he's stupid enough to try and write it off on taxes like people are thinking. But who knows? CoffeeZilla might have a video on Linus next year. I guess we'll see. If you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like. Subscribe if you're not already. And I'll see you guys next time.